Hi, my name's Adrian Walker, and today I'm presenting on marine debris, in particular plastic pollution, and Australia's policy response to the threat. Plastic products and packaging are integral to modern life, cheap to produce, and often designed for short term or single use. Only 14% is recycled. A lot of the rest is transported from the land into coastal environments, waterways, and then the ocean, becoming marine debris along with materials intentionally or unintentionally discarded at sea. This plastic pollution, such as plastic bottles, bags, straws, and microbeads, ranges in size from multi-ton fishing nets to microscopic broken down plastic pieces. More than 12 million tonnes of plastic waste enters the ocean each year, which is 20 trillion pieces and growing all the time. 75% of items found on Australian beaches are plastic polymers. In Australian waters, floating plastics were found in concentrations of 80,000 pieces per square kilometre. Significant quantities of plastics have been reported in the digestive tracts of several species of marine vertebrates in Australian waters. Marine fauna from plankton to whales interact with plastics, and it harms protected species of birds, sharks, turtles, and marine mammals, causing injury or death through drowning, injury through entanglement, and internal injuries or starvation following ingestion. Chemical contamination also increases risks to human health because of pollutant accumulation in tissues of seafood species that have ingested marine debris and then are eaten by humans. A study last year found humans consume 2,000 tiny pieces of plastic per week, which equals more than 250 grams a year. Therefore, the popularity of plastics production and use has meant that marine debris has continued to increase as a global environmental pressure with worsening impacts on diversity. And this is just a slide showing the size of plastics that are found in the ocean. As you can see, the microplastics are by far the biggest problem. So the Australian government manages the threat of marine plastic pollution through the protection of threatened species and ecosystems, the implementation of the International Convention on At-Sea Disposal of Rubbish, and the development and implementation of national waste management policies. These policy standards and guidelines are underpinned by legislative instruments and are managed by the Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment. So the first is listing it as a key threatening process under the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act of 1999. The second is a threat abatement plan addressing the impacts of marine debris. Then there's the National Environment Protection Used Packaging Materials Measure of 2011 and the Australian Packaging Covenant. There's also particular references to marine debris in matters of national importance listed under the EPBC Act, such as the Great Barrier Reef. In Australia, marine debris has been identified as a key threatening process under the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act of 1999, and it's listed as injury and fatality to vertebrate marine life caused by ingestion of or entanglement in harmful marine debris. Harmful marine debris is defined in the regulations as land-sourced plastic garbage, abandoned fishing gear, and ship-sourced solid non-biodegradable floating materials disposed of at sea. The threatening process includes entanglement in and ingestion of harmful marine debris. As the threatening process adversely affects at least 20 listed threatened species, it meets Section 188 4C of the EPBC Act. Endangered species listed under the EPBC Act adversely affected by marine debris include loggerhead turtles, blue whales, albatross and petrels. Then there's the Threat Abatement Plan for the impacts of marine debris on vertebrate marine wildlife of Australia's coasts and oceans from 2018, and it incorporates actions needed to abate the listed key threatening process, particularly a coordinated national approach to addressing marine biodiversity decline and to develop an understanding about microplastic impacts and the potential role of new technologies in waste management. It also aims to meet international obligations required by the EPBC Act and combines previous marine animal recovery plans such as the Marine Turtle Recovery Plan. Then there's the National Environment Protection Used Packaging Materials Measure, which aims to reduce environmental degradation arising from the disposal of used packaging and to conserve virgin materials through the encouragement of reuse and recycling of used packaging materials by supporting it and underpinning the voluntary strategies in the Australian Packaging Covenant, which is an example of product stewardship and shared responsibility. It's a cooperative arrangement between industry and Australian state and territory governments involving targets and compliance obligations to reduce the environmental impacts of consumer packaging, including plastics, paper and cardboard, by changing the culture of businesses to design more sustainable packaging, increase recycling rates and reduce litter. Other policy responses include the National Waste Policy of 2018. Waste management in Australia is primarily the responsibility of states and territories, but through COAG, the Australian Government ensures international obligations to a number of agreements are met through federal and state and territory measures. Then there's regional and international engagement through several initiatives, such as the Coral Sea Triangle Initiative, the Coordinating Body on the Seas of East Asia, and the Marine Resources Conservation Working Group of APEC. Then there's the Pacific Ocean Litter Project, where Australia coordinates Pacific Island countries to reduce marine litter and encourage refusal of single-use plastics. And the United Nations General Assembly and United Nations Environment Programme, Global Programme of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities. And finally, in developing informed policy to mitigate the threat of marine plastic pollution, it is crucial to understand the rates and types of plastic pollution and to identify the factors which influence rates of pollution and its pathways. The Australian Marine Debris Initiative is a database of more than 5.4 million marine debris items and have been entered into the database with the assistance of 902 partner organisations. So, is the policy effective? Despite initiatives banning the use of some plastic products, the use of plastics continues to grow globally. As a result, the pressures being placed on the marine environment by dumped, discarded and lost debris continue to increase. Initial review of the Threat Abatement Plan for the effects of marine debris on vertebrate marine life concluded that the objectives of the plan had not been met and the plan needed to be revised. Impacts on the environment associated with marine debris are high, with a deteriorating trend. Many people feel that Australia's policy response to marine plastic pollution does not go far enough. There are calls for an immediate federal government ban on single-use plastics to ensure that plastic pollution does not enter waterways, then oceans, by stopping it at the source. Action undertaken in this area includes a petition for Australian government to commit to a 70% reduction of plastic pollution. There is a need to undertake research to better understand the sources and effects of marine plastic pollution, particularly microplastics, on marine fauna and ecosystems. Coordinated research is required to identify effective mitigation and prevention strategies to stop plastic debris from entering the marine environment, or it is difficult to ensure that policy development is based on the best available evidence. We need a balance between the need for further research and the need for urgent action to reduce sources of marine plastic pollution. Or as one academic said, the Australian government should require some information about the effectiveness of policy rather than just making it. And finally, the references. So thanks very much for your time.